And Patrick and I, okay, you're gonna have to wave again, Patrick, for the recording. So that's Patrick. And he and I are new friends and have really been sharing a lot. And I think we're going to be real good friends. And his wife is delightful also.
That's right.
And when he told me how he was using Encodements, I thought, oh, cool, this is exactly what I want. So I wanted him to share. And then for those of you who are also using Encodements to do it. So we have just a few people here, which is fine. Doesn't matter. I didn't do a real push on this. I wanted just to catch the people that were most excited about this coming in. But let's see, who else is new to our group? Salma is. Wave at us. I had her mute. She's not going to be able to unmute, but she's new to our group. And Pat, you've been coming to the Sunday ceremonies, and there's Rona. She's new to our group pretty much. Rona and I are not new to each other, but she's new to the group. And I don't know who is at area code 301, but I welcome you here.
It's Celia.
Oh,
Celia.
She's not new to our group either.
No.
We get to share, don't we, Celia?
We do.
Okay, so what I want, because I didn't explain a whole lot, and y'all got one email, and then I sent you the follow-up email. And I'm going to tell you a little bit, and then I'm going to turn some things over to Patrick, and we're going to go back and forth. We have not practiced this. Okay.
No, that's for sure.
So this is really all just spontaneous here.
I've thought about it a lot, but I didn't know what was actually going to go down when we do it. So
I don't either.
that's
So
good.
we'll see. And let me just know you that the folks on here aren't shy. So as long as you don't have any background noise, I'm going to say, sure, you don't have to. I'm not going to mute you. So as long as you don't have background noise, if you have background noise, please do mute yourself. The only ones that don't mute themselves are me and Patrick. As some of you may remember, I muted myself one time, and here I'm jabbering and people aren't paying much attention, or they're trying to get my attention and saying, yeah, I'm mute. So Patrick called me one day and asked if we could share some stuff about Encodements. And he, as we were talking and doing work and stuff, I began to realize that he has been doing Encodements with his work. And I'm going to have him explain what he does, because he does kind of like I do. He takes different things and then integrates into his own, and how he's using Encodements and what he discovered about the Encyclopedia of Healing. And one of the things that he told us, which was just it blew me out of the water because I didn't even think about it. But I'll let you share the book, share what happened to you about the books on the chakras and the auras.
Oh,
and
okay.
realized we had misnamed them. We did not name them correctly because people think it's all the old information. So,
Oh, true. Yeah.
yeah. So Patrick, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I'd just like you to explain, first of all, who you are, what you do, how you brought all of your process together, from which elements you did.
Okay. So, well, I'm a hypnotherapist, and I've been a hypnotherapist for 26 years at this point. And it happened accidentally, actually, because I started even a few years before that with neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. And I rented a local bookstore here in town, kind of a new age bookstore, to do a presentation to see if I could get some clients. And what I didn't know was that one of the people who came to the presentation owned a hypnotherapy school. And when he bought the school, they already had some NLP built into the curriculum, but he didn't know anything about it, and he needed somebody to teach it. So he was checking me out to see if I could do that, and he offered me that gig, and I ended up staying at that school for 14 years. And after I was there about 6 months, he said, why don't you go through the hypnotherapy training, and then you could start teaching some of that as well. which of course I did. So I was there a long time. So I've been combining NLP and hypnotherapy for a long time. And back around 2012, I started to develop my own way of doing that, that I call inner mind sourcing, which is basically, it's a combination of hypnosis and NLP, but in my opinion, it goes beyond that because rather than what they do in either one, I work with the subconscious as though it's a computer operating system, and I put it to work in that way. And so far, it seems to be able to do just about anything I ask it to do. And so that's led to the development of a lot of different kinds of ideas and different processes. And so that was where I was at when I first encountered Kathy. And first I called her just to get a session. And I was so blown away by the session, my wife and I would listen to the recording of it. And that's when I started getting the books. And then once I got the book, I think the creation of form and conception into birth, which then led to me getting the other books. And now I have all of them. And what I think, one of the things I told Kathy early on is that, I used to see her ad for those books in the Sedona Journal, but I always kind of ignored it because I would look at the topics, the auric field and the chakras, and I thought, I already know about that stuff. I've been on a spiritual path since I was in high school when somebody introduced me to the the life of Edgar Casey and the Edgar Casey books. That's what got me started. And little did I know when I encountered those books, it was like, okay, no, you don't know anything compared to what's the knowledge that's actually there. So it's been hugely uh, life altering and mind opening to find out how much I didn't know. And now I have a sense of how much, at least a sense of how much I still don't know, but that's way more accurate than I would have ever thought. So I've been going through all the books, and they're probably all about 70% highlighted. Um, I've always got one of these when I'm going through the books. And I've gone through all of the books now except for the newest one, the sexuality one. But what I did with that book, I forget which book it is. Maybe it's in the trauma and PTSD book or the hidden structures book. But at one point, somewhere in there, either Amiya says or Kathy says something about you could you could ask your healing team to apply all the self-healing processes like it's all one big plugin. So so I did that with the most recent book, the Reclaim Your Sexuality book. But I'm also a dowser, so I thought, okay, this is probably too much to do all at once. So I dowsed um how to break it up. So I asked my healing team to do it over a period of 3 nights. When I did the same thing with the chakra book, that was the first time I did that, and I was more cautious then. So I think I gave myself 5 or 6 nights. So I'd ask them to do the next chunk of exercises and the next chunk each night. That's the last thing I would ask for at bedtime. And for a long time, that's when I would do most of my healing work, is that last hour in bed before we go to sleep. Now I do it twice a day. I do it in the morning and I do it before going to bed. So that's the baseline.
So that's your baseline. So how did you start integrating it with your clients? Because if I understand correctly, not all your clients know that you're using encodements, just like not all my clients know I'm using encodements.
Right. No, most of them right now have no idea. And that partly is due to, again, in one of the books, I can't tell you which one now, it said that because you're working with somebody, you obviously have permission to implement whatever you're capable of implementing on their behalf because they've come to you for assistance. So it's somewhere it said that the client doesn't necessarily need to be aware that you're doing it. So I took that to heart. So I pretty much do it with almost every client. Um, and at first I was doing it all silently. I would do the hypnotherapy piece out loud that they would, you know, have some idea about, and then I would do the encodement work silently. What I do now is I just do the encodement work out loud. I just don't explain it to most people. So it sort of depends on the client. If they're open, then I'm very open as well. I've created a little 3-page handout that I give to people that I feel like would be open to it. Because I live in Santa Fe, and Santa Fe is pretty spiritual, metaphysically inclined here. So I have a 3-page handout. The first page describes how to guide themselves through setting up the heart source. The second page has the soul healing prayer. And then the third page is just a diagram that I got off the internet of the 7 chakras, but it's a person on site on the side of them. So you could see the chakras coming from the front and emanating from the back so that they understand what they're doing when they're doing heart sourcing going into the front and back of the chakras. So for certain clients that I think will get it and not be freaked out by it, I give them that handout. And you know, so it's all intuition. Like yesterday I had a client and I knew she would be open to it. So she's getting ready to have a knee replacement. And so we did a few things. We talked to the consciousness, no, I'm sorry, not a knee replacement, a hip. And it's her second one. And the first one that she had many years ago had lots of horrible things. So we cleared all the old emotions away from her previous horrible experience so that she would become for the new one. But then secondly, we talked to the consciousness of the hip and kind of explained to everybody what's going on and why we're doing it. And, asking everybody to welcome, all the new parts that are coming in. And then I gave her I went through a healing hologram with her with all the parts of the hip at the top of the diamond shape and the divine blueprint to the right side, the heart's healing center on the bottom, and the consciousness of the stem cells on the left. And I had her connect to each one and introduce herself and talk about what's going on and what she's doing, and then asking for the healing team to implement the hologram as soon as the surgery is complete, and to keep spinning it for as long as it needs to go. So, and she was excited. I drew it out for her. So the holograms are one thing that I find really cool, that I really like working with.
I'm
And
going to interrupt you a second, Patrick.
yeah,
If you haven't read all of the books, and I can't remember where the holograms were first introduced.
I
is
think
you
it's
may
in the
not-
secret. I think it's in the hidden
instructions?
structures.
Okay.
I think so.
Is that you may not know what that the healing hologram is, and you can use it in many different ways. It can be a simple diamond shape, but it can also be a 3-dimensional diamond when you add like the chakras, the other points that come out. And so when Amia talked about this, the top point, let's just do the simplest with the diamond shape. The top of the diamond is the part of the body that you're working on. And I haven't really used it for emotional stuff, but I'm sure we can. Yeah, Amia saying, of course you can use it for emotional stuff. But so like I had cataract surgery. My last one was a little bit more than a week ago. So I finished both eyes now. And I didn't even think about this, just because it comes in through me, it doesn't mean I actually think about it. But my doctor said, oh, it looks like we're going to have to go in and do some touch up. So I'm going to try something before my next appointment, because behind the new lens is some cloudiness. So I'm going to use the description about the holograms using the cataract. So I'm going to do a diamond shape. And at the very top is going to be, I'm going to just put both eyes in there. Okay. And then you're going to work with stem cells, and you're also going to work with your divine blueprint. And
Right.
so it doesn't matter which one goes on which side. You may be guided that you're supposed to do it. So on one side, I put the stem cells. On the other side, I put the divine blueprint. And then down at the bottom, if y'all remember the heart healing center, which is just above your physical, this is my right side, y'all, just in case you're wondering, just because you're just above the physical heart, and above and just into the top of the physical heart is the heart healing center. So I'd like you right now just to focus on the top of your physical heart, and the other parts just above. You don't have to worry about that. Just focus on that. That's the heart healing center. Now just bring up a part of your body that's giving you fits. It could be an ingrown toenail on your foot if you want to, or it could be your eyes, anything physical. It could be your entire system, like endocrine system. Now just hold that awareness. And those of you who are good at feeling and experiencing the energy, you will feel a connection. Now, kinesthetic, because I'm more kinesthetic with energy, I feel the connection. And what happens with the heart healing center and the part of the body that you're connecting to is it connects also to the divine blueprint in a different way. So it's like, okay, for me, eyes, balance, just balance. And Ami is telling me, yes, as you do that, you are also, your healing team is also doing encodement work. Brings things into balance. So that's what, so when you want to do it and set it, you know, the old ad, set it and forget it. So you have the top of the diamond shape, eyes. That's what I'm doing. On either side, stem cells, divine blueprint. And then the bottom point is the heart healing center. Now, it can become more complex. And so you still have the diamond, but this time you're going to create the diamond front and back. And so I'm going to ask, what chakra is involved? Well, eyes, third eye, right? So at the point of the diamond, I hope you can imagine this as I'm doing it. At the point of the diamond, as you're bringing it down, is going to be the back or the front, you decide, it doesn't matter, of the third eye. And then on the other side is the front of the third eye. And then you can take that hologram, ask your healing team to place it over your eyes. And when they did that for mine, they actually created two of them, one over one eye, one over the other eye. And to spin it at the exact vibration and frequency needed. I'm already feeling stuff. Have y'all tried that with yourself right now? Anybody want to share what they're experiencing? Patrick, you're grinning real big.
Well, because yeah, I mean, I'm not actually doing it at the moment. I was doing the other exercise with the Heart Healing Center. I'm not doing that one right now, but yeah, just because I really like the holograms. They're very fun to play with. I've created a bunch of different ones for different things, and
so, you know, that's cool because I haven't, as I've been bringing this stuff in, I haven't been playing with them intently like that. I've just been bringing them in. So to talk about how you've been creating those in different ways for different people.
well, so sometimes, let's see, let me pull up my little thing here. sometimes it'll be just, I'm thinking of, and this is kind of how I end up working with my processes too. Sometimes I'll just become aware of an idea or an issue, uh, and think, what could I do about that, right? So like, so I have one that I created, I call it daily self-healing and rejuvenation. Okay, and so it's a three-dimensional diamond like that. At the top, it's that intention, daily self-healing. The divine blueprint is where it would normally be, and the consciousness of the stem cells is on the opposite side. Heart's healing center is at the bottom, but at the bottom point, coming in the front, I've got the green ray of healing, because I got the ascension book with the ascension prayers and the rays. So the green ray of healing there. And then on the back point, I've got all the self-healing plugins like the Harline and the pranic tube and the DNA and the remove calcification from the pineal gland and the aura and all of those as a giant plugin, all self-healing plugins. So that's my daily self-healing hologram.
Okay, that is really, really cool. So let me tell y'all how you can use that. So as Patrick developed that, is that is now in what we would call in Body Talk. I see Sue here, so she's real familiar with the Body Talk. Hi, Sue. Sue and I haven't seen each other in probably pre-COVID, right, Sue? And she's in Texas, you know, but is that once it's in what's the matrix of this, your healing team knows exactly what's talking about. So you could say, healing team, take Patrick's, what do you call it, Patrick?
Daily self-healing and rejuvenation.
Take Patrick's daily self-healing and rejuvenation hologram and implement it in me. It is that easy. Because you take
that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. you can, like when Amma said, or Amia, whoever it was that said, you can use a whole book as a plugin. There are times that we make healing, asking for healing so difficult, because you read those books and what they're about 8 of them now, and there's another one that's in there getting on relationship that's getting ready to, well, they're doing the editing. I don't know how soon it'll get published. But basically, the whole thing that Amma does, and y'all remember that Amma has said, I was really struck when Patrick said he uses it a computer operating system, his method. What did Amma first say when it first came in? I was amazing when I first brought in the thing about encodements, which, by the way, I thought I was crazy as I was saying the same thing, the words. Is Amma described your encodement system as your computer operating system. That is the whole background, your foundation of how you live your life. And so what I get from Amma, and as Amia will say different things, it's like, that's what plugins are about. And I got that from Body Talk, by the way, where I got the idea of it, is let's take all of these steps that we just spent a half an hour doing in an encodement intensive and combine them into one thing and use it as a plugin. So that's where your basic plugin comes from, which was the first plugin. Because
yeah, and creating plugins is really fun too.
Say it again.
I said creating plugins is a really fun thing too. I've created some plugins.
And how did you do it?
Well, if you have all the books, it's interesting because, all the plugins are always explained in the back of the book and that in the appendix. And although not equally, because like in some of the books, like for instance, the repair the energy field plugin, in one of the books, that plugin is like 3 or 4 pages. In some of the other books, it's only a page. But so I looked at the structure of what they're doing in the what's going on in the plugins and kind of basically went, okay, so if that's the basic structure, these are the basic kinds of things that we're addressing. I mean, and the basic structure is fairly obvious. Typically, we're removing artificial encodements that are creating problems. We're repairing encodements that are creating problems. Sometimes we're asking for new encodements and so on. And so those are, for me, kind of the basic principles. And then I'm just sometimes using my intuition. And so I'm doing it when in areas where I feel a challenge, either with myself or with a client. Like for instance, for sleep. So I have a plugin now that's handwritten. It's about a page and a half of steps for, I call it the healthy sleep plugin. So I created that because I want to have better success with my clients with sleep issues. And so that's where that one came from.
So you can take, and that's where plugins came in for me, as I was repeating the same steps over and over and over again.
Right.
And I thought that's got to be an easier way. And they said, well, of course there's an easier way. There is always an easier way. And so that's where plugins came in. Now,
Yeah, it's awesome.
it really is awesome. And so there are, Sue, I see your mouth moving. Are you trying to say something? You're talking to somebody else. Oh, okay. So Sue and I, that's how we met each other, was through Body Talk. And you could, if you know another modality, whatever the steps are in the modality, you can ask your healing team to come together and use the steps of the modality that you're using. So I'm not that familiar with NLP. I know some of it. I am trained in hypnotherapy, but let's say you're doing pranic healing, something I've been trained in that I don't use very often, but you use pranic healing, and you know that in pranic healing, you use color and you use light. And you could put in your hologram or ask and put in your plugin, please apply the electric violet light, which is different than the violet flame, electric violet light to this plugin in regards to this body part. Now, with Body Talk, I will say, please do all encodement work needed to balance the microbes in the body. And please use the 4 foundational plugins. I name them, but I don't name them when I'm doing with my healing team. I just say, please use the 4 foundational plugins to address, it's usually an emotional issue when I use it like that. Whatever wound that is having me feel insecure or angry or anxious or whatever. And the 4 foundational plugins are the basic, which is remove artificial encodements, repair damaged and altered natural encodements, activate any inactive natural encodements, and if needed, create and activate natural encodements. And then there's the soul healing prayer, which I used to do in 2 separate parts. And the soul healing prayer, which is connecting with your soul healing team, for me, it's soul healing angels, is find and bring back all the pieces of myself I lost at this wound I'm working with, clean, repair, and heal all pieces, and fully integrate those pieces within me. And then as I begin doing more and more and more and making a bigger, I'm working with the sexuality book right now, and I'm going back through, because I'm preparing one document that has all the plugins that I know of in it. And there's some that are not in my document, and I'm looking at them all and I'm going, oh my lands, look at all this. Like this is in the Reclaim Your Sexuality book, is on page 330. Heal genetic and generational experiences.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It's a good one. And what it is that we now know, people in the metaphysical world and healers have been saying cellular memory And it goes back over lifetimes, and it goes back generationally. And what's happening with our researchers in the traditional medical field, not medical, but research field in this area, they have found that there are generational wounds that are passed on in the DNA for generations. So think of when, and you can see it when you look at a family. And in one side of my family, my dad's side of the family, we have raging amounts of alcoholism. We have raging amounts of diabetes. I mean, the diabetes is so bad that a cousin, second cousin of mine, who I barely knew, but she was younger than me, died of brittle diabetes when she was probably in her 40s, and she was blind by the time she was in her 30s. There's lots of stuff to be able to, balance blood sugar now, but it didn't work for her. And her great aunt, who is my great aunt, that would be great aunt, died of diabetes several years before insulin came out. And so we could go back into all of these levels. And I did a lot of work when I was in the charismatic, this is my nun days, when I was a Catholic nun, is that I did work in what's called the charismatic renewal, which has all these kinds of things in it that we actually do in the metaphysical world, but it's just called something different. And I was working on healing in my family, and this guy that was there, who would think what I'm doing today would be from the devil, he said, "Oh, your family," he was tuning in as we were talking about it, and he was in prayer, and he said, "Oh, your family's from Canada." I said, "No, it's not." I didn't laugh like that. I said, no, we were, and I was going to say France, but what came out of my mouth was French Canadian. And then we both started having the same image, where, and that image being that my dad's family, the Hebert side, which came over from France in the 17th century. And I found out there's even a statue in Nova Scotia to the first, it says the first farmer in Nova Scotia, but actually, when you think about it, it's the first white farmer in Nova Scotia. And that's how far my family has been back. But what we both got, and it was just a horrible image, is that a member of my family, a male, a trapper, came upon a small campfire, and there was a native woman there with her infant son, and he raped her and killed the baby. And when the dad came back, he cursed our family, and he did a really good job doing it. And we did a process at that time, it was called Healing the Family Tree, and we used the Catholic Mass. And I was there not knowing I could do the seeing kind of thing. And in the middle of Mass, and we were at my sister's house, we did it at the house, there were two lines of people. This light showed up, and there was a line of my ancestors and then a line of Native Americans. And one by one, they moved into the light. And I've been watching my family, and so far, none of my blood-related blood-related nieces and nephews, nibblings is a term that's used now, nieces and nephews are alcoholic. And I've lost one brother to diabetes. I'm getting ready to lose another brother to cancer, but he's 70 now. He's been an alcoholic since he was in high school. But neither of his children have it that I can see, neither of my other nieces and nephews. So I'm going, wow, as we look at that. And I don't remember how I got off on that tangent, but you can take a process that you do. So you can take a body talk process, you can take a Psych K. Actually, the belief plugin came from Psych K. Psych K balances beliefs within you. And I developed a plugin for that. And that's where the belief plugin came in.
By
Anybody
the
have
way,
any
Psych
comments?
K has a lot of NLP in it.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And what's that other brain gym too?
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn, can I pick on you?
All the time.
Yay, Carolyn. Talk a little bit. You were, when I came on, you were talking about how you've been, the work you've been doing.
Basically, it's from Kelly Hampton and her encodement work. I started doing it maybe sometime during COVID. And I have been going through the encodements for the elementals, the fairies that I've been have been with me for the elementals. I mean, I saw gnomes when I could barely talk. And when I said that, they were laughing. Everybody laughed at me and I just blocked it out. But got a lot of fairies around me. I have an elfin. I do her encodement work for the fairies, plant lives. Another quick encodement from Kelly is for prosperity is 999 blue. But I also do encodement work for regions. I don't call them countries, but she calls them regions for a reason. And I also added encodements. I went into a light meditative state with my pencil and pad and added, I was telling Patrick, I added the Ukraine and Russia, and they want me to do the OPEC nations. There's a lot of them there, but there's a wall around them that I feel. And they also want me to do Israel, China, North Korea, and there's another one. One of the ones that they do want me to do is Switzerland, and that's because basically Switzerland is they don't believe in anything. They don't even believe of a higher source. So I have been doing these and adding these, but I haven't been into a really good mental space in order to go in and meditate and do these.
And so Kelly's use of encodements, the way she uses the term is different than the way Alma uses it, right?
Oh, I still use the encodements, but this is going to, oh my gosh, this is going to save up so much time.
Isn't that cool?
It is. It's just incredible. I mean, I go through the encodements. I've got recipe cards of everything that I go through with my encodements that I do physically and mentally. But that hologram that we did with you, I've got either torn ligaments or torn tendons in my wrists. It took away the pain. I took my wrist strap off. It was just awesome, just incredible. And my pain usually runs between, when I'm not using my hands or moving my wrists, runs between at least at a 5, and it can go up to a 25 if I bend my wrist the wrong way.
Wow.
Yeah, it's painful. And after 8 years, I've gone to family doctor, thankfully, for the plugins. I managed, this is the day that my youngest sister passed away last year. So I managed to get through that whole year without going nuts. When I don't do any of my spiritual exercises or I refer to as energy work, I just don't feel the same the next morning when I wake up. But I like Patrick's idea of doing it in the morning and at night. That is really beneficial. I like that.
Thank you for sharing that, Carolyn. I appreciate it. when I began my work in energy medicine, I started with healing touch when I was still in the convent. It was actually healing touch that led me out of the convent, because I discovered a whole new world and a whole new sense of spirituality. And then the next major thing I went into was body talk. And body talk has been, I still use body talk with everybody, because that's how I start my work. Then I started incorporating encodements within it. So in a body talk process, if I get that we need to address the circulation of the lymph from and within your breast, for instance, is that I apply encodements to it. And it's, again, it's intuitively, but you could do it with muscle testing and dowsing. I get a sense, oh, there's something in there. Healing team, please use the basic plugin that is blocking the ability of the body to respond in full to moving the lymph from and within the breast. So I will do that. And I've actually thought of sitting down and just developing a whole plugin using encodements for each system of body talk. I was
there you go.
Yeah. Sue turned me on to this thing called the Healy. I've been using it the last few days, and I was just thinking, gosh, I really also, before I start, turn the Healy on. I usually use it at night. Turn the Healy on is to connect with my healing team and ask them to find where's there the block with me of me being able to just fully accept the energy here. You know, one of the things, some of you know the story, I've had 4 major illnesses in the last few years. The first of those major was COVID. And one of the things that came up in my healing was exhaustion. It's like I haven't gotten my energy level back. And I was thinking, why haven't I used encodements before this to kind of remove and to bring balance to that? And I'm thinking now of how I can use the hologram on some of the things that come up. You could, if somebody's saying, yeah, but I'm not feeling much of a difference, as you could ask, okay, healing team, and they don't even have to know that you're doing it. When somebody comes to you to work with healing, they've already given permission to do that. And I can just go in and say, hey, healing team, would you apply the 4 foundational plugins to whatever is the wound that is blocking this. And I don't even have to know what it is. You can be driving down the street, walking around wherever you are. You can be in your home, wherever it is, and something emotional comes up. And you can ask to please use, I use most often the 4 foundational plugins to work with that. You can use, you know, it's like some saying anxiety is physical, and well, there's always a physical repercussion, but it actually comes from too much of this neurotransmitter or the other. Is you can use the holograms that we were talking about with the intention fully to balance the neurotransmitters in your brain. And some of those come from genetics, right? And they may have started, I've taken some people back to, where did it start? How many generations? You can use muscle testing to find out. And you can go back generations and discover, hey, here was a woman, a great, 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 great grandmother whose husband went off to war, left her with 6 little children. When is he going to come back? Will he come back? And the anxiety that occurs. And that can be passed down, especially if he never comes back. And that can be passed down, and it may show up in you of abandonment issues, of being afraid of something that's going to happen, that they're going to leave you, nobody's going to come. And you can use the Healing Over Lifetimes plugin for that. You can also use, there's a plugin to bring healing to the DNA. In Body Talk, there's a process that we use in addressing the DNA, both from results like vaccines can cause some changes in the DNA. It can be other DNA issues that show up. And you can apply that. It's just an extra layer, an extra tool. Whatever modality you use as a therapist, you're sitting there and there's somebody and you're going, my lands, they are caught in victim consciousness. What's one of the plugins to remove victim consciousness? And you can ask the healing team to use that as you're listening to them. You could ask your healing team to please use the basic plugin to bring healing and balance to the wound that is most interfering with them being open to listening to something different. You can walk around all day doing encodement work, of using plugins. A few years ago, I remember I was in absolute panic, frantic, all kinds of stuff that were happening in a particular area of my life. I was using mainly the soul healing prayer, but also the basic plugin about 4 times a minute. I mean, it was like over and over and over. And I kept at it and kept at it. And it took 3 days. But then suddenly things dissolved because it was that deep within.
Whew.
Is there anybody else here who uses encodements often? And can you express what's happened with you? Okay. So I hope go ahead, Carolyn.
2 things. I haven't really been diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, but one of my encodements that I do is I go back in and I go to the generation that first contracted the Epstein-Barr virus. And then I go back in and I ask my team to go 3 generations previous to that and bring that energy to me. And then I ask them to restore it to my original Divine Blueprint plugin. Now, I don't know if I'm doing that right. And the other one that I work on.
Excuse me, Carolyn, before you do that, there's no way you can do it wrong.
Oh, but and the funny thing is, I actually feel that renewed energy come.
Mm-hmm.
It's very beautiful. The other one that I work on that I know is very important is my cerebrospinal system, my vagus nerve, and my supraspinal system. I work on those, encodement work on those, and restore them to their original Divine Blueprint. And if I don't do those every day, I really feel it. But going through all of this, I realized that there are some things that I have missed that I can incorporate now too.
Well, this just popped into my head. And so, you know how they say easier and faster. And what I'm hearing, and this is Amia, who's the one who gave me the information on the books. Amia says, remember, everything consists of encodements. Those are the building blocks. Is that you can, because I will often say, please overlay the Divine Blueprint. You can also say, please align the encodements of my liver to the encodements of the Divine Blueprint and release any encodements that should not be there according to the Divine Blueprint. I'm getting this information right now. And any encodements of anyone else's energy that doesn't belong there, to remove that, excuse me, remove that energy and to balance that.
That's
so that
awesome.
just popped in. So think about that.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. And Amma she said it a lot for a while, and she said, if you ask the question, can encodements do this? The answer is yes. because it would not have come to you. And there may be other stuff that has to work within it that you may not know yet, but can we just do healing team? Please balance the encodement system of my physical body according to the encodements of the divine blueprint. Just say that right now to yourself and notice what happens. Some of you feel it kinesthetically. Some of you will see colors, hear sound. Some of you may not get anything. It doesn't matter, but it's happening. And you don't even have to know the details of what encodements are and do. You can just know that there's these things called encodements that are structural and they can be rearranged in your body. You don't have to know what an artificial encodement is. You don't have to know what a natural encodement is. One of the things I've not talked about much is there are other kinds of encodements, and one of them is a structural encodement. That is made that's like puzzle pieces. They're like puzzle pieces. So I broke my shoulder several years ago. I broke it in 3 places, right? Not my shoulder, but my arm, the ball joint right here. One of the gifts I gave myself when I went to Texas for Christmas one year. And you could say, and I'm hearing my shoulder said, you could have done this, you know, when it first happened, it would have made it easier. But I could ask for the structural encodements with that come together as puzzle pieces. Ask them to please align themselves according to the divine blueprint. Because you're reminding that consciousness of what it is. And the other thing that popped into my head is people were talking, Carolyn, you were talking about Epstein-Barr.
Yeah.
Is Amia says, remember that every virus, every illness that you have has a consciousness. And so you have the Epstein-Barr virus that has a consciousness. You have the hepatitis C virus that has a consciousness. And it seems like the viral consciousness, what I'm getting is actually much more prominent than, say, the bacteria for strep throat. Strep throat's a bacteria, isn't it, Sue? Strep throat, isn't that a bacteria? Like, yeah, she's nodding. She has a different kind of medical background, not your usual. So you can talk to the consciousness of that, and you can ask, why are you out of balance? Give me the reason of why you're out of balance. Maybe it's the reasons why you're out of balance. When I got COVID the first time, and that's before any of us knew much about COVID, right? It was in April of that first year. And I didn't know anything about oxygen sat rates. And any of you who do know about oxygen sat rates may know that an 85 in oxygen sat rates is called a danger situation. So here I am with COVID, and I'm measuring my oxygen sat rates because I happen to live with a nurse. And my oxygen sat rate went down to 85. Well, me not knowing anything, do you know what I thought about my oxygen sat rate? Well, that's a B. That's a strong B going back to school. And I found out later when I finally turned the corner at home is that Barb, who is the nurse that I live with, she said I was a hair's breadth from trying to convince you to go into the hospital, which I probably wouldn't have done. But I didn't know that. And so sometimes not knowing things is very helpful, but you can talk to the virus. Now, I can tell you what precipitated the COVID, and it was lowering of my immune system. I do a lot of emotional eating, and I work on it. And I came home one day with cookies, key lime pie, and ice cream. of which I was going to eat at different times. I literally heard my immune system going, no! And I said, you know, I don't care, because I was doing the emotional eating, and within 12, I didn't eat all of that. I ate some of all of it, and I had a good amount of sugar. Within 12 hours, I was sick as a dog. And so when we listen to our body, that helps. What would have been the better thing for me to do is to sit quietly and talk to that part of me that was craving these things and say, what's up? And ask to please use the 4 foundational plugins to bring healing to me. So there's different ways you can use it. And when you come up with a different way to use it, let me know. Just because it's fun. It's fun to know the different ways, and it stimulates the creativity in each one of us.
Kathy, when I first saw your book about encodements for life, or change your encodements, I was intrigued. I bought it, read it, was wild about it. And I'm at that stage now that when I tell other people or another healers up here about your book and about what you do and what they can glean and how they can heal themselves, there's an apprehension to it. And I'm wondering if it's because of everything that is in there. It overwhelmed me, and it was like, how in the hell am I going to learn all this stuff? And it really is a no-brainer, because I trusted, and just trusting that my encodements and the technicians are not going to screw me up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that I think that could really, really use you. They need, yeah, I don't know the right word. It's, they need your books. They need that.
Thank you, Carolyn. You know, one of the things that I tell people, I said, if you just get the book and read a section at a time, just go through it, or you can just sift through it and go, okay, what? Oh, okay. For some reason, I'm being led to stop here. And it's page 22. This is the Reclaiming Your Sexuality book. And the heading is Heal Family and Galactic Influences.
Ooh, yes, 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 yes.
And then I'm looking at the other page, and it says, ask your healing team, please go through the female line. Does not matter whether you're male or female. They start with your birth mother and then move on to your birth grandmother and their great grandmothers, all genetically, that have the energy of females being less than. Now, I haven't read this book in a long time, but one of the things I'm going to start doing, and I'll let y'all know when it happens because it needs to happen soon, is I'm going to do videos on YouTube that basically will say, I'm going to just pick one of the books. I'll probably muscle test to see which one, and then I'm just going to leaf through it. I'm asking right now, where's another book? Okay, here's another one. And that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to read from it. This is interesting. So on one side, page 244 is sometimes spirits lose their way. This is all about spirit release. And on the other side is the highlight, go through the spirit release process, which I didn't even remember having put this in this book. And I'm going to talk about those things because we can do it simply one step at a time. As you can take any of the books, and I really recommend starting off with the birth healing books because
I can't get any more volume there.
so many of our issues start with the birth healing. And just read a section at a time. No reason to overwhelm yourself. You can.
Oh, this is a dictionary.
let's see, you can muscle test, douse, whatever, or just flip through until it's like you're going to stop and then read that part, and you can relax until you get used to it. It's really powerful being able to do that. Patrick, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Well, related to what you were just saying, I will tell you that it took me 6 months to go through the first 6 books. Because I did exactly that. Every night I would go through the section that called to me and read that section and do all the exercises and go to sleep. And the interesting thing is, and this doesn't always happen, but it happened fairly often, that if I was doing that, especially if I did maybe a more sizable chunk, like a whole chapter or something, but it wasn't unusual that then I felt like encodement work was happening in my dreams. I'm certain of it. And it wasn't that I was asking for it, but because that's what I was focusing on, that's what I was thinking about, that's what I was engaging in, it felt like it often was happening during dream time. And that's, I think, super powerful. And so taking that 6 months was really great, because I had that same feeling early on. It's like, I'm never going to learn all this, like, especially for me with the chakra book. But when I had the encodement team do it during sleep time, for 5 nights, then I went back to the book and I could go through and do all the exercises, and it was okay. It was digestible when I had the exercises kind of done first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you and Jenny were doing it together, right?
Yeah, we're doing the exercise from the conception into birth book. We're on day 93 of conception right now. So we do that every night, and then we've added a few plugins at night, one for body fat and one for anti-aging. And so we're doing those every night. And then sometimes she'll do extra stuff. Like for a while, she was working on you every night when you were still sick. So,
Appreciate that.
pardon?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she hasn't read the books, but obviously I talk about them, and then she's aware of it because of what we, how much we do together. So yeah,
Well, thank you.
absolutely.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Yes, Sue.
It just occurred to me, I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but some of the work I've been doing has to do with healthy aging. And so I've quit using the term anti-aging. You don't want to stop the aging process. You just want to improve it so you're healthy and have a good quality of life. But anti says, oh, I'm opposed to aging. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but sometimes our semantics can bite us.
It really can bite us, yeah. I tell people, my dad's 95. He's not in really great health, and he's in the early stages of Alzheimer's. And people will say, well, I don't want to live that long. And I said, well, I say I want to live to about 125, but I want to be healthy in body, mind, and spirit. And so I think that's one of the things to keep in mind. So thank you, Sue. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining me and Patrick. I hope you had fun with it. I had a good time with it. And good.
Thank you.
And so many blessings to you. I will have, I did record this. So those of you who expressed an interest in it, I'll send you a link to where it is if you wanted to look at it again or hear anything that is with that.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Patrick.
Oh,
Thank
my
you very much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you all.
Any
All
blessings.
right. Y'all take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Lots of fun.
Bye. Thank you, Kathy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.